Good evening. Hi, I'm Trace Chesser. I actually work at USA Cares and I help a lot of veterans that are going through transition. So I've been asked by the University of Louisville to join you this evening to go through some of the workshops and the classes that we'll be participating in. Tonight we'll be talking about job searching and having an online presence. And so I am very thankful that University of Louisville and the MAP program asked me to join them and do this, and I'm hoping that this will help you as well. If you would go to LinkedIn and click on invite me to join you as far as your profile. If you don't have a profile after this course, hopefully you will. And so if you do, then go ahead and invite me then. Also, one of my coworkers, Paula Redding, really hope that you try to connect with her as well. She is an expert in this area, and she has helped a lot of service members that are in transition and veterans as well. So connect with both of us, and we hope that we can help you. So I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to start a PowerPoint to help us get through this portion and see what we can do to help you get on to your next career. So make sure that you're asking questions, or if you log on here later and I don't see you, I think in the chat, I've got Paula trying to watch in another room, and so she's going to make me aware of it if I miss that. So again, this course, this one is going to be about job search and online presence and how important that is to actually obtaining employment. Now, whether if you're active duty military transitioning out, or if you're a veteran and you've been out for a while, doesn't matter. The online presence is actually very, very important. So we're going to kind of combine these two areas together. Our friends at the University of Louisville with the MAPS program, they felt that this was an important subject because they actually suggested that we cover this. So this is the third session of 4. I want to make sure that you're aware this, if you're on here now, this is being recorded. So we'll go ahead and get started. This session 3, the purpose of this, it's to try to help service members and veterans understand some of the common obstacles and challenges that they face when going through the job search. Trying to help you understand how to think like a hiring manager and understand what they're going through, and the importance of the online presence in today's job search. I want to do a quick review and a few things I want to mention. We talked about in previous sessions. First one I talked about it, and then some of it will be from when Paula did the last session. And it is about, the first thing is transitioning service members and veterans. I want them to all understand that it is so important that you understand the mindset of a hiring manager or recruiter. If we can get people to understand that and think like a hiring manager or recruiter, as opposed to being the candidate all the time or the person that's searching for the job and only thinking at it from that point of view, if we can actually get you to do that, your success rate will be much higher, because there's just a different perspective when you're in that other seat, when you are that person making the decision to invest in someone, to hire them and bring them on to their organization. And the fact that, they need to be a cultural fit, that's really important. So we want to make sure that everyone understands that. That is probably my number one goal. No matter if I'm giving seminars at Fort Knox or another military installation, I usually start with that. And I try to make sure that you understand that that is so important, is that you understand that and you understand the cultural fit piece. Few things that you need to know before transitioning, if you are a transitioning service member, is looking for a job can be a full-time job. Don't get discouraged. Don't be overwhelmed by it. Just understand that it is a process and it's going to take time. And if you've not did this before, how can you possibly know what you're going to be faced with? So it's very important to know and understand that this can be a full-time job in itself, just searching. It's always easier to find a job if you have a job. There's a lot less pressure. Plus, on your resume, if it's showing that you're employed, it possibly will not bring up additional questions about why did you leave your last position and what's going on. And, so if you have a job, it is easier to find a job. And again, and I can't say this enough, you need to be able to think like the hiring manager or the recruiter, talent acquisition manager, whoever. You really do need to be able to think and understand where they're coming from. And there's a reason why I tell you this. I always throw this chart up whenever I'm giving different courses to say, hey, think about what they're going through. And with this arrow here, you're going to notice the different steps that are kind of in the hiring process. The initial screening, the phone interviews, face-to-face interviews, second or third interviews, behavioral assessments, background checks. It's important to know and understand that this is a process and it takes time. A lot of veterans and service members that are transitioning really have a problem with this. They are very concerned about why does it take so long? They want an answer right away. And I get it. I was the same way. I needed to know what was going on. I mean, it's your future. You're thinking about yourself here. But again, if you understand that it's a very long process for someone else, then that may be helpful for you. On this chart, you'll notice at the bottom, I threw in some numbers, like under initial screening, I put in the number 100. Under phone interviews, face-to-face, 10. What I'm trying to do is give you an idea of if someone posts a job, and let's say it's Paula, and Paula used to do this before she came to USA Cares, actually for another agency that actually she hired a lot of people. And so she can tell you, if she posted one job, she'd probably get at least 100 applicants. And she would have to go through and screen those 100 applicants. But then she would probably try to narrow it down based on the requirements of the job. She'd try to get it down to about 10 applicants. And then she would do interviews. And then probably before they moved on to second or third, she'd probably have 5 candidates move forward. Out of that, they would narrow down to possibly 3 and do background checks, behavioral assessments, and then they would offer the job to one. But they'd have to go back to the others and then let them know, hey, I'm sorry you weren't selected. Well, this sounds great. However, the problem is most of the time, this is just with a single, we call them requisition, a single position. But the reality is, a talent acquisition manager, corporate recruiter, they're going to have more. They'll have on average, say, 30 open positions. So when I say 30 open positions, yep, they have to simultaneously do the same steps for all positions. So now if I take these numbers and say, okay, well, instead of 100, you got to do it times 30. Well, now you have 3,000. And then you have to do 300 phone interviews and face-to-face interviews and so on and so on. You can see the numbers. So think about it. That is why it can be so challenging and overwhelming to a recruiter or hiring manager because they're doing so much and trying to find the right candidates. And they're also worried about, okay, you can't just hire somebody, you need to retain them. So it's really important to find that right fit. And so it can be stressful. So if you are the veteran, transitioning service member, or whomever, and you're going through this and you're feeling very anxious and you keep wanting to reach out, to email, to call, to send a message, you can only do this so much. And then all of a sudden, this hiring manager or recruiter is really not going to want to deal with you. And so you could end up being eliminated just because of being impatient. And so again, I wanted to bring that up and talk about that. Another area that we've talked about, and Paula focused on this the last session, is the resumes. I'm going to go through this super quick and just tell you, resume is a quick summary. It's a 1 to 2 page document of your experience. But the thing is you really need to have the keywords that associates with the job. So you need to really search and try to make sure you understand what's important to that employer. And maybe you'll find that in the job description and you'll see certain keywords that stick out to you. And if they pertain to you, you want to use those same keywords in your resume. If it was important enough for them to put it in there in the job description, it must be important. You want to make sure that it's clean and concise, tailored well, organized. And there's little things like your email address. Think about what a professional email address should be. And I slow down and I hesitate there because every time we go through this, it seems to be an issue that somebody may have something that not necessarily inappropriate, but just not professional. And so you got to think about these things. The format of the resume, again, very important. You got to make sure that you're using some of the same font all the way through. Use keywords. Make sure that you have the same font, the design. Don't use templates. Don't use colorful text. Don't speak in third person. It's really important that you also take that Word document when you're done and you're satisfied with it, convert it to a PDF. Because if you're using a Mac or some other system or whatever, and you send that, and that document gets jumbled up when the hiring manager opens it, then it's not aligned. That looks poorly upon you. If you save it as a PDF, that's going to help. That will try to make sure that all the spacing is the same and everything looks great. So that's another important key. Terminology in the civilian sector. That is something that really, we work with transitioning service members that come through this area, primarily through Fort Knox. And the terminology and trying to get rid of a lot of the military terminology, the lingo, using terms like battalion and company and things like that to describe the size of the group that you work with. If you hand your resume to a civilian employer and they have no idea what you're talking about, you're actually hurting yourself. So we work with transitioning service members or veterans a lot and spend a lot of time trying to make sure that they can, we don't want to say demilitarize, but better explain their history throughout the military to someone that's never served in the military. And so it takes quite a bit of work and time because this is a common language. When we're in the military, we know and understand what it means. When you're out, it's difficult. So this is something I think everyone needs to spend quite a bit of time on. I believe Paula covered all this information when she went over the last session. If you didn't see that, contact us and get a hold of the recording of that last session because that's really going to be important. And it's important that you have all these things set up before you start to go into the online search. Here's an example of, if you're, an officer at a division level, or a senior non-commissioned officer at a division level or battalion level or company level, it doesn't matter. You can figure out if you want to be like manager, senior manager, director. You can convert these things instead of saying that you were whatever your MOS was and that you were a platoon sergeant. Platoon sergeant may make a lot of sense to most of us. Civilian sector may not. And so again, it may confuse someone and they may not be able to tell if you've had the experience that they're desiring. So you need to be able to convert all that information over. And there's lots of information online. If you just do some searching, you'll find things that will help you to better understand how to convert that language. All right, so getting into job searching. Doing job searches, you got to think about, again, the location, what industry, what titles, skill sets, experience. When I first talk to someone, I always have to ask them, okay, well, first of all, where are you wanting to go? Where are you wanting to end up? Because if geographically, if that's the number one decision, you got to figure that out. Then you can start your search based on that. Industry can vary depending on what your experience is. I mean, if you're IT, very broad. Most people will use someone in the IT field. If you're someone who's trained in the medical field, well, that's a little bit different. So that's going to change it. So doing job searches, there's different areas that you need to focus on, and you got to kind of prioritize what it is you're looking for. As far as tools that are out there are a lot of tools. There are a lot of search platforms to help you share your information and search for jobs. One of the first things that I try to make sure that people understand is that if you just blindly go on to someone's website and you search for a job and you apply for that job through their website and you don't know anyone there and you just become one of however many that apply, the likelihood of you actually obtaining that job, it's not great. There needs to be a little bit more work done as far as like networking, and that's where we're going to get into having that online presence here in a few moments. But just blindly going on to somebody's website, applying, the likelihood of actually obtaining the employment, not good. And that's not Trace saying this. That's actually some studies have shown that without any connection to anyone, any referral or anything else, very unlikely that it results in employment, just because there's so many people that are applying to jobs. Now that could change depending on, how many people are applying, but just in general, it's not the best advice we can give you to say, yeah, just go blindly apply. So that's something to consider as well. You want to go back and you want to make sure before you go any further here that you have completed that resume, that you understand everything on the resume. Because if you hand that to that hiring manager and they look at it and they notice something there that's important to them and then they start asking you about it, you need to be able to explain it. You need to be able to speak to them about, times that you were in that position and give examples and try to make things quantifiable. If it's quantifiable, it will make more sense. If it's just hypothetical situations or I did this or I did that, it really doesn't give them much to go on. So make sure that your resume is complete and ready to go. Or if you have a portfolio that you put together that has examples of your work, everything is good to go. Then at that point, when you're ready and you have everything ready, you can then start searching. You also then need to go back and you're probably going to have to tailor that one single master resume to make sure that it is the best fit for each job or the job description that you're looking at, because you'll have to tweak it a little bit. But again, if you don't have that basic resume down, if you're not ready, and if you can't explain everything that's on there, then how can they understand what your skills and abilities are? So make sure that before you do anything else, you've got that ready and you're ready to go and you're confident talking about it. So job search platforms, there are so many that are out there now. It used to only be just 3 or 4. Now, I'll show you. There are several. So one that pops up automatically anytime you say something about job search, Indeed. If you haven't seen any of these, go take a look. I mean, a lot of them are focused on, actually, you'll see components of it that it can be confusing to where it's like, if you want to post a job, see right here in the middle of the screen, it says post a job. Well, that's usually for the employer, but there's a side of this that's also for the individual searching for jobs. So just know, sometimes that can be a little confusing, but this is a really good one. It pulls jobs from all different types of job sites. I mean, sometimes you'll see an employer, say like Atria Senior Living, and they want to post a job on their site. Well, Indeed has a tool that they've designed that will scrape jobs from other people's websites and pull them in so they can be that one-stop shop. They can be that one organization that has all the jobs in one place. And so this is a pretty good one. This is one that we do recommend that people check out because you have that ability to get a lot of sources pulled in from into this one area. Another one is ZipRecruiter. ZipRecruiter was something that was pretty popular a couple years ago. I still know a lot of people who use ZipRecruiter to post jobs. So you'll notice at the bottom that you can enter in keywords. Most of these platforms, they're going to be very similar. You'll be able to enter in certain words and it'll help pull. You can enter in location and then you can sort it by that. And there are other filtering tools that you will find while searching here. Another one, and one that's been around for a very long time, Monster. Monster was something that was super popular back in the 90s, in the early 2000s. Still is popular, but like I say, there's so many more options that are out there. You know, and if you do a search to just say, what are some of the platforms that are out there, some of the systems that can help do job searches, you'll actually notice that you may find something where it talks about the 20 best job search websites. So, I mean, there are all different sources that are out there. And I took this and I actually put some of them up here so that you could see. I listed 8 of them here. I put all 20 up and I'll scroll through here in just a moment. But you're going to see there are numerous sites, Glassdoor, Indeed, Monster, Career Builder. So they're all great. They can help you find the jobs that have been posted and employers who are looking. Again, this is great. Here's the others. However, this is more of someone's posted a job and everyone's competing to get their resume in front of them. And so it can be a little bit of a challenge. And there's the last ones up to the 20. So this gives you kind of that example. But the biggest thing is you want to have an online presence. Understand how to build a professional network effectively. That's what's important. Again, if you want to go back and you want to search for jobs, that's great. That could actually help you. A lot of times we'll tell someone that if they're not sure what to do, go to like Indeed, find jobs they think they could be a good fit for, and search for 3 or 4. Get the job descriptions, print them off, and then look at what are the similarities in these different job positions, and are there certain words that are being used over and over, keywords being used over and over. And if so, and that's the type of job you want, you probably should go back to your resume and use those as what we call keywords. So that way, it seems more relevant to the employers because they thought it was important enough to keep using these over and over. Then it's probably something that should be in your resume. So again, the online presence, once you have your resume completed, everything's good to go, and you're ready, then you probably do want to go ahead and make sure that, you know, all your past employment information is up to date. You can explain all your skills and abilities, and you have no issues there. Then you can look at something like the different platforms to start putting your information out on. But one of the areas that I'm going to talk about, and it's something that I use a lot, and it's LinkedIn. The importance of social media and recruiting today with hiring managers, very important. When I did this search and I found this article, they talked about 94% of recruiters, hiring managers use social media in the hiring process. 94% use LinkedIn, 65% actually looked at Facebook, and you can see the rest. So it's important to also, before you start this process, go back and look at where you have social media accounts and make sure that it correctly reflects everything that you want an employer to see. Like in Facebook, if you've got nothing but photos of partying and traveling and some things that maybe could raise questions. I mean, I travel, I go on vacations, I have photos there, so it's not that. But you know what I'm saying? If there's things that could question your reliability, dependability, you may want to think about that, and you may want to consider, do I want to remove that? Because what this is telling you, this screen here, what it's telling you, recruiters will search and try to find information about you. If you are one of those individuals that are selected and they start moving forward in the process, they're going to look, because guess what? If that recruiter passes it off to a hiring manager and the hiring manager thinks, well, this person's great, but then they start searching and they find all these negative photos that gives a bad perception of who you are, they're going to go back to the recruiter and say, didn't you search? Didn't you see this? Why didn't you find this? So again, you want to make sure that you are doing the research on yourself and make sure that you're ready. Again, 94% will use LinkedIn. So we're going to talk a little bit about LinkedIn. Networking with LinkedIn, I mean, you can read it here. I don't need to go over this with you. I mean, you can see this, but what I want to point out is there is a backside to LinkedIn that is a corporate recruiter tool that I haven't honestly looked to see what it costs today, but I can tell you a few years ago, it was $10,000 a year to have the full access as a corporate recruiter to LinkedIn, or to be able to search on LinkedIn and find any individual, no limitations, or to actually use a tool they have inside of there that was a recruiting tool to where you could create job postings. You could also have what they call clipboard, where you could, assign people to certain areas and then compile all this information and start just clicking buttons and saying, this person's a match, this one's a match, this one's a match, and then put them together, create one single message to something like, hey, I noticed you on LinkedIn. I noticed you have the skills that I am looking for. I'd like to find some time to speak with you. Let me know if you'd be interested in talking about a position. And they click one button and they may send that out to 100 people. But when it comes to you as the person who has the LinkedIn account, it looks as though it was tailor-made just for you. So they use that for mass recruiting. So this tool that's $10,000 a year, that unlimited search, a way to tailor messages to try to get people to think that it was individually typed for them, or to be able to post jobs and have a full range of tools there, that costs $10,000 a year. Then don't you think recruiters think LinkedIn's a pretty powerful tool? And if it is that powerful, shouldn't you be on there? And that's where this is going, this having a social media presence. You can use other platforms and do something similar, but LinkedIn is the one specific social media platform that was designed just for this. And that's why it's so popular. So we want to make sure you know, and hopefully that will motivate you to want to go and create an account I just did a screenshot of my own account and put it in here. You know, it has my name, it has a photo. You should come up with a photo that you feel is a professional photo that everyone would look at it and say, okay, you know, they're not making any opinion or anything from it, but it's just, you know what, that person could represent my organization. So think a lot about the photo. You're building out basically, and that's why I'm saying it's so important to make sure your resume is ready to go, because you're now going to take your resume and cut sections out to build your LinkedIn profile. And you'll notice on there that it has like name, has your title. If you want to list a current title, you could put a small summary in there. You can put in there that you're open to having recruiters reach out to you. There's a lot of things. And then you'll get into the sections that talks about experience. Well, basically, here's your resume. And after you build this and you keep adding these little sections in to talk about experience and you give a brief description, once you have that done, you actually can convert this over to a PDF to turn it into a resume. Not a great one, however, some people do it and have been successful with it. So you build out your experience, then you go into the education piece, enter in your education, volunteering, and once you have it all done, then you're ready to start searching for other recruiters. If you can then have that ready to go and start networking with and connecting with some professional recruiters, you're now well on your way to having social media presence and start to actually network and try to find and obtain your next position. When doing these searches, up at the top, you'll notice the search area. You can type in names of companies. You can type in recruiter. You could type in, there's several different things. And so once you put that in and then you do the search, then it will let you start filtering it, or if you want to search for people or jobs. And like here, I just typed in recruiters and did a search. And then all of a sudden it drops down and gives corporate recruiters or executive recruiters in different areas. Well, once you have that, then you probably want to connect with them if they're a recruiter at a company that you felt you may be interested in, or you may be able to ask questions from them if they want to connect with you. So you click on the button to connect and you're on your way. You can filter it out by locations. You can type in a different location and then that will help you to find recruiters that are in that location. So again, this is simple. I mean, you just gotta work with it for a while. It's not hard, but it's very important, extremely important that you go in. Like if I want to search for them here in Louisville, then I click the button and then I hit apply. And then that helps me to narrow it down. And you could just have tailor-made messages. Keep it in a Word document that, hey, I'm new to job searching. I'm trying to obtain employment. I'd like to learn more about positions you may have available, or I want to learn more about the industry you're in, and just see if they'll talk to you. Most people on LinkedIn are pretty cooperative. I mean, as long as they have time, they will try to help you. Conducting the search for a company and job. Well, here I have, for example, if I searched for GE Appliances and I pull up their profile as an organization, you also notice they'll have people that you're connected to there that you could click on that and it'll run down the list of people you're already connected with. If not, you can select other levels to try to start connecting with people. But here specifically, we have like GE, and then you see where it says jobs. If you click on jobs, it'll list the different jobs that GE Appliances has built out specifically just for LinkedIn. So they are paying money to LinkedIn to post jobs for other people to find them. So if you find a job like this Human Resource Union Relations Senior Manager, and you go and you read about the job, and you know that your resume and your profile is going to match up to that specific position, you can just hit apply. And when you hit apply, it's going to send your profile, not your resume. It's going to send your profile to them. And you then are now in front of that recruiter or the person that posted this job. And you can share your profile. There's different functions to adjust and try to make sure that people are more aware that you're out there and you're searching and you're trying to find employment. So the key thing is that people know that you are actually in the market and trying to find a job. So let me stop this here. And I just want to say, I think that this is probably one of the more important sessions that we have, but until you can get the resume done and until you understand more about how to articulate your past experiences to where someone in the civilian sector can understand it, it's going to be tough. But if you can do those first steps first, this is where you're going to start seeing a lot of progress, and you're going to notice that people are paying attention to you. So again, I appreciate you watching this. I don't think there's any questions. If so, create your profile on LinkedIn, reach out, and we'll try to help you however we can. So we'll have another session that's coming up in August, and we look forward to seeing you then.